Hello, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. You're watching Mixtress video. So, I I have a bone to pick with self-help books and the way that we speak to each other in metaphysical spaces. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. Kind of, I don't know, like, we'll see. My dog is here. You can't see him. He's very old and confused because he's like, what are you doing in the backyard? You're never in the backyard. So, okay. I just want to say, like, the overall gist of this video is that there's Z. You guys probably have never met Z before, have you? Anyway. He's my baby boy, even though he just turned 15 and he is filling out applications for college. Anyway, the overall gist of this video is that don't let anyone else tell you who you are. Don't let anyone else tell you that there's only one way to improve upon yourself. So here's the thing. I have an issue with any spiritual guru, person that considers themselves a teacher in any kind of metaphysical spaces, someone that writes self-help books, that the way that they approach it, if the way that they approach it is, if I can do it, anyone can do it, and it worked for me, it'll work for you too. I have found that most self-help books, and I've read a lot of them because I want to improve upon my life. I want to improve upon myself. I want to do that. So I have considered a lot of those perspectives over the years. And lately, I'm kind of in a spiritually questioning space, and I'm kind of craving that, like, I want to read someone else's views on reality and spirituality, and I want it to resonate. But for most of my life, none of those types of things really have resonated, and that hasn't changed. And I've been letting go of a lot of books lately because, sorry, my neighbor's dog, Roman, he's a little upset that I'm out here. Anyway, I have let go of a lot of spiritual books because, I mean, a lot of people can, like, take what resonates and leave the rest when it comes to that kind of stuff. But with me, I can't. With me, this is the way I work. If I'm reading, like, a spiritual book or something like that, if I really vehemently disagree with something that someone is saying and they have presented their view of spirituality as if it's the only way, I'm out. Or even if I agree with what they're saying, but they present their view of spirituality as being the only way, I'm out. My dog looks small, and he is not small. It's just because he's standing further away from me that it seems like he is. Anyway. So that's number one. Like, if I'm reading, like, a self-help book or a spiritual book, if it starts by saying, hey, you know what? I am going to let you know what wisdom I've gathered along the way in this life and what has worked for me. And please, take what resonates and leave the rest. If they say that from the beginning, if they have humility in their approach and they know that so personal gnosis is not going to apply to everyone, then I'm in. I'm probably in. Even if I don't necessarily agree with what they say, I know that it's their truth, and I can take what resonates for me. But if they don't start out saying that, I'm out. And that's just how it is. For me, that's, you know, that's how it works for me. Because what I have found when it comes to spiritual books, or even just the viewpoints of spiritual gurus in general, even if you're just like following someone on YouTube or whatever, if someone is presenting, my view is a lot of those things are someone presenting their unverified personal gnosis as if it is the truth and expecting it to apply to everyone. And that's just not the case. You know yourself the best. Only you can know what's going to work for you and not work for you. So I have a couple of book recommendations and then a couple that haven't worked for me that I've let go of in the last, well, just today. Just today I let go of 2 that do not work for me. So we'll start with those. We'll start with the thing that I want to bitch about the most, which I've seen time and time again, some variation of the language, and I've bitched about it on my channel before too. Some variation on the language of you should forgive your abusers, you co-create your reality, you signed a soul contract before you were born that anyone that treats you like shit in this life, you agreed to it, you consented to it before you were even born, so it's fine. Any variation of that, I call bullshit. And I do want to make sure to say, if that works for you, please enjoy it, please. But that whole notion of like forgive your abusers, and I know what you're going to say in the comments. If you're a proponent of that, you will say that you do it for you, you do not do it for them, which is all well and good, except that the word forgiveness implies that you let someone know that you forgive them, that you are absolving them of what transgressed. Words matter. So if what you mean is let go of your trauma and try to move on from it, that's a completely different thing than forgiving your abuser, isn't it? So, I mean, I've bitched about that before, but like any self-help guru, spiritual guru, self-help book, any person that is a huge proponent of that type of language of, you know, soul contracts, co-creating your reality, forgiving your abusers, etc. It has, I know that there's a difference. There's a world of nuance in between someone saying that and someone blaming the victim. I know that those are different things, but they feel similar. And that's not, I mean, there are definitely some people that have been through some serious shit that really benefited from forgiving. And that's great. You know, anything that helps you, like seriously, whatever you got to do to get through the day, please do it. But as long as you're not hurting anyone else or hurting yourself. If it's genuinely good for you, please do whatever you got to do. I don't want to take that away from anyone, but that's not a helpful way to view things for me. So anytime a book is about that, I'm out. And I started reading the 4 Agreements last night. And I get it, like if you zoom out and you just look at like the chapter headings, you know, I can see how it could be a helpful book. But if you read the words the guy is saying, he is saying that people that allow you to abuse them are asking for suffering, and that if you are suffering, that no one can hurt you without your consent, is essentially what he's saying, which is absolutely categorically untrue. Like, there are power dynamics in this life, and people take advantage of that, and people overstep other people's boundaries, and people are shit asses, and you know, it's not your fault if someone treated you like shit in your life. It is not your fault. And I think it's really dangerous when there are people, again, just basically saying you just need to accept what has happened to you and forgive. And that's the only way you can move on, because that is not true. You can move on without forgiveness. And in fact, I know for me personally, I am very quick to forgive. And if someone comes to me and genuinely apologizes, I will almost always forgive them. And there have been a few times that I have regretted giving them that absolution, you know, because they didn't deserve it. And it's not up to me to manage their feelings. Why is it up to a victim to manage the feelings of the person? Why is it always like the work needs to be done by the victim, right? Like, that's the way our society is set up, and it's bullshit. So because of that, I do not recommend the 4 Agreements. Did I ever even say the name of that book? I don't know. I'm re-recording this video, so I can't remember what I've said and what I haven't. So I don't recommend the 4 Agreements. Just personally, again, I know that it is a book that a lot of people really love. And if you can take something from it and leave the rest, that is great for you. Sorry, I have like big tangles in my hair. Anyway, so if you can do that, that is great for you, and I love that for you. But I let go of that book today. Another one this one isn't like strictly like a self-help book or anything, but I know a lot of people have really benefited from this book, and it just does nothing for me. So I basically just want to say this out loud just in case you're another person that this book does nothing for. Because I have been a person that, like, if I check out a book, buy a book, whatever, if I read a book that someone else that I really enjoy has recommended and I don't get it, and sometimes I fear that I have reading comprehension issues, so I think that's part of this. But basically, like, if I don't get it, either I don't like it or I don't understand it, or it doesn't resonate with me the same way it resonated with someone that I really care about, I feel bad. I feel wrong. I feel like I'm not doing it right, you know? So there have been books that I have kept because I thought that maybe someday I would be enlightened enough to understand these books or whatever. And one of those that I let go of today is Women Who Run with the Wolves. Because it, to me, is just a collection of stories that don't flow well and don't make any sense to me. Like, I don't understand the point of it. And it seems like it's a book that's this thick that could really be like this thick. I like very succinct, simple writing. So I do still enjoy lyrical writing as well, as long as it's straightforward, to the point. And I feel like that book is not to the point at all whatsoever. So it's not for me. It's just not for me. And I'm sick of beating myself up over that shit. So just in case you're another person that beats yourself up over not liking things that a lot of people you love like, it's okay. You know, I think at the end of the day, like I said, so many people that consider themselves spiritual, that might consider themselves teachers, and we all collect wisdom throughout our lives that we can share with others, right? That's not a bad thing to share your experience with others. It's a great thing. It's why I'm here. But whenever you tell someone else that your way of seeing things and your way of doing things is the way that everyone should see and do things, I mean, it sounds so basic to say it out loud, so maybe none of y'all even need to hear this because you know, but it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. So, Okay, so those are the books that I personally have let go of because I'm dealing with some grief right now, and the experience of grief and thinking about death has reframed how I think about life. And it's just making me go harder on the things that I've been doing for the last year, such as decluttering and things like that. Because, why am I spending time in my life maintaining things? And that's what we're doing with our stuff. We're maintaining them. We're moving them from place to place. We're storing them. We're dusting them. We are cleaning them. We're maintaining them if they are things that need maintenance. It's a lot of work. So it needs to be worth it. It needs to be worth my time. And most things aren't. It's not because my time is that precious. It's just because simplicity is joy for me. And maybe it's not for you, but it is for me. So I don't want to keep a book around that is supposed to be, the way that other people have talked about women who run with the wolves. I've heard this several times from several different people, that they like to pick it up like bibliomancy, like to open to a random page, or they like to look at the chapter headings and see an issue that pertains to them, and then they read that. And it's helpful for them. And that has never been the case for me. So why am I keeping it? So I'm not. I mean, it's simple as that, right? But so let's end this with talking about the things that I do recommend. So far, I haven't actually finished it, but I think I can already say I recommend it. The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. So here's a person that does things in the way that I need them to be done. He begins the book by saying, none of these are absolute truths. These things are things that through my experience, through working with creative people and being a creative person myself, work. So if they don't work for you, ignore it. Ignore what doesn't work for you. And so it's like right away, I'm like, okay, let's go. And I actually really like what he's saying. I really do think it's possible that I could use this book for bibliomancy. I want to highlight everything, which means I bought the book. I don't have it yet, but I actually purchased this book. And that for me, finding something that is kind of scratching that itch for me of something that is kind of profound, kind of spiritual, but also very practical and succinct and simple. And, it is what I want from a book like that. So yeah, because I have found that, it's making me even more relentless on letting go of books that I wanted to be that, but weren't, Another one that I enjoyed, I had an interesting experience with this particular book. I was reading a physical copy, and I didn't like it, and I had borrowed it from a friend, so I brought it back to return it to her. But that day I was bored at work, so I looked up that book to see if it was available as an audiobook on Spotify, and I listened to it all throughout my workday yesterday, and I actually really liked it. So this is a book that is called How to Be Fine. Oh, I don't know what the authors, I know their first names, Kristen and Jolenta. They have a podcast that is, I think it's called By the Book, where they take a different self-help book every episode, and they live by that book for 2 weeks, and then they talk about it. And so they wrote a book that in itself is a self-help book talking about everything they've learned for years of doing this project. What were the main takeaways? What did they enjoy from these books? What did they not enjoy? And it was really, it effectively broke apart the whole self-help book industry, in my opinion, because they're taking like a bird's eye view of all of this stuff, you know? And I think that's really helpful to see that, to see, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it is two people's experience with all of these different books, right? But they were able to have some takeaways that were really interesting. They were able to see some of the overlaps between all of these different books. And just something in general that I've been thinking a lot about this year so far is I'm just questioning all of my beliefs and all of the beliefs that I see everyone else spouting as if they're fact. Every day. Every day we have this shit that we tell people is truth that is just, there is no truth, because perception is reality and we all perceive things differently. So there's no self-help book that's going to work, that's going to completely work for any individual person, except maybe the person that wrote that motherfucking shit. So I got to write my own spiritual guide for myself, like not to sell to other people, but I got to write one for myself. And I don't even know what that looks like yet. I feel a bit adrift right now. Which isn't as dark as it sounds, because when I am adrift, I usually find some answers for myself through that process, because I don't want to remain adrift. But I always come back to the same things for me, like as far as spirituality is concerned. What's important to me? The company of animals. I'm definitely like a soulmate person. I've been a serial monogamist my entire adult life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship, but that is how it has turned out for me. But, you know, I want a person. I want to have a person, you know? So, I don't know, is that spirituality? Like, I'm basically just talking about how I want to live my life. How I want to live my life is with pets, with a human companion. I want to have a job where I'm helping others. I've worked at a library, public library, for 20 years. I want to have a lot of music in my life. That's actually possibly the most important thing to me, is music. And also other culture. Like, I love TV and movies and, you know, stuff like that. Divination is important to me. Like, tarot is important to me. Not the way that it's been perverted for me in the last 5 years. That's not it. That's not the tea. And that's just how consumerism has poisoned all of us, right? No matter what we're interested in, consumerism has likely poisoned it for us since the pandemic, at the very least. And that's just part of the problem, right? That's just what kicked it up a notch. It's not how it got started, you know? Yeah. So I guess that's a part of my spirituality too, is trying to actively work against the rampant consumerism and destruction of our planet that's happening all around us. I mean, I'm sitting outside and it's nice out. When I live in the Midwest and it's February 5th, it should be frigid right now. And it's a little cold because the sun's setting, but it's really not. Anyway, what is my point? My point is, don't let anyone else tell you who you are. And yeah, I mean, just everything comes back to that for me. Everything comes back to, how do I tune back into myself? Journaling is a big, important thing for me. So, you know, if I'm writing a book on my own set of personal gnosis and spiritual beliefs, like the things that I want to spend my time doing as far as things that make me feel spiritually connected in this life. I mean, it's dancing, listening to music in general. Like, if I fill almost every moment of my day with music, I'm probably happy that day. And even if you took out everything else in my life, if I just remembered that one thing, I'd be okay. And to other people, maybe music isn't that important. Honestly, it freaks me out when somebody says they're not into music. I'm like, I don't know if I trust you anymore. But, you know, just because it's not my experience and I don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong, you know? And there are people that music isn't that important to them, especially increasingly I've noticed like the younger generation's music isn't as important to them. And I think it's because like they just growing up with internet connectivity at all times. Like I can't really imagine what that's like since I'm kind of on the cusp. Like I'm an elder millennial, so like I remember my life before the internet. And luckily, there was no social media when I was a teenager, because there'd be a lot of regrets out there. But yeah, so if I were crafting my own spirituality, it would be a lot of music, nature, writing, animals. I genuinely believe in the overall goodness of people, most of the time. Most of the time, I really do. I can find good in almost anyone. I don't need to agree with people on everything. You know, I can have friends that don't have the same beliefs as me. I don't know. I really feel like I don't know what this YouTube channel is anymore. I really don't. Like, is it just gonna be me talking about whatever the fuck I'm going through right now? I mean, that's what most of my online life has been, like whether it's been like a live journal blog or my podcast or my radio show or whatever. It's almost always just been me babbling about whatever I'm currently thinking about. And, you know, my YouTube channel has definitely been that a lot of the time. But there was a significant piece of this channel that, like, I think most of my subscribers are here because of the tarot content. And I'm not giving up tarot. I am, like, even after that last video that I just posted a few days ago, I've gotten rid of more after that. So, yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to count, because I actually deleted the list of all my decks that I had in my note app. And I think that was good for me to like force myself to not obsess about the number, because I kept wanting the number to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I realized that that was not good for me, in the same way that counting calories is not good for me. And some of y'all know what that psychological thing is like. But anyway, I deleted that. So I don't know exactly how many decks I have left. But it is to the point where I have like a little 2-drawer thing. Top drawer is tarot decks, bottom drawer is oracle decks. And when I pull open my drawers, they're all just sort of like laying out so I can see them all. It's like maybe less than 10 of each. And that's not total, because there are different places in my house that I store decks, because I like to have them at reach at different parts of my house for different reasons. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But it's just like, I'm still not satisfied. So I think, yeah, I've said that before. But anyway, when it comes to spirituality and self-help shit, please trust yourself. And if you can't access what you really feel, I mean, we all have different ways to re-access our own thoughts and opinions and feelings. But do what you gotta do what's worked for you in the past to tune back into yourself. Because only you know what works for you. Don't hold on to things that feel like obligations, you know? Like, obviously, like, I'm a huge proponent of getting rid of shit. Like, I'm becoming a minimalist almost. So take this with a grain of salt if that is not a propensity of yours. But for me, anything that had the weight of, I should like this, but I don't, or I should be using this more, but I'm not. If there are any shoulds surrounding objects in my life, they gotta go. And I assure you that as soon as you let those things go, it feels amazing. It feels amazing. So, anyway, thanks for listening to whatever this is. I gotta go pick up some dinner now. Bye. Why did I do that? Who am I? What is this?